Of the lower 48 states, two of them lack Amtrak train routes. One of those two states is Wyoming, which also happens to be the least populated state. I think that most major places in the state of Wyoming can be served with just three passenger rail lines. I'll make proposals for all three lines on this channel, and the first of the three lines is being proposed in this video. The southern and eastern terminus of this route is Denver. In fact, spoiler alert, Denver will be the southern and eastern terminal station for two of the lines, and a stop on the third line I'm thinking of. Given that Denver is not that far away from many of Wyoming's largest population centers, and given how large Denver itself is, Denver is a logical terminal stop for lines heading to Wyoming. The first major decision I had to make with this line was whether to take this train route by way of Boulder and Fort Collins or by way of Greeley, as the line I'm proposing is the first and foremost line that I think should exist for the state of Wyoming. Even if nothing else exists for the state, I decided to go for the northern Colorado route that would serve the highest number of people. That route is the one involving Boulder and Fort Collins. Boulder, in fact, is the first stop after Denver. It is home to the University of Colorado at Boulder, which has about 32,000 undergraduate students and a very famous football player turned coach. The city has about 108,000 people. Unfortunately, the trackage and likely stop location isn't that close to downtown Boulder. But it also isn't that far away from the University of Colorado at Boulder East Campus. Northeast of Boulder is Longmont, the next stop on this line. It has a population approaching 100,000 people, so there would be significant interest for this stop in its own right. There'd then be a stop in Loveland, which has over 76,000 people. The final stop in Colorado would be in Fort Collins. It is a city of 170,000 people, making it the second largest city served on this route, only behind Denver. The city is also home to Colorado State University, which has over 26,000 undergraduate students. My goodness, between University of Colorado students and Colorado State students, this route's going to be hopping at the start and end of semesters, as well as the start and end of breaks. The first Wyoming stop would be in Cheyenne. At just over 65,000 residents, it is the most populous city in Wyoming. And furthermore, Cheyenne by itself accounts for about 11% of the entire state's population, by my own calculations. So yeah, this is why I made serving Cheyenne a priority for a route that goes into Wyoming. I'd have a stop in Wheatland. It is one of the smaller stops served on this route, as it has a population of about 3,500 residents. There'd also be a stop in Douglas. It has a modest population size, at about 6,400 people, but Douglas is also home to the Wyoming State Fair. I don't know how busy the Wyoming State Fair is, because I've never been to it, but I could see the stop in Douglas being an especially big draw when the fair is happening. The following stop would be in Casper, Wyoming's second largest city. It has a population of just over 59,000 residents. Fun fact, the city has a history of being an oil boomtown. There'd then be a stop in Thermopolis. It's a name that stands for Hot City. As for how it got the name, it's a story that would go well off topic for this video. But anywho, it's the smallest municipality served by this route, as it has about 2,700 residents. The following stop would be in Worland, which has about 4,800 residents. The penultimate stop would be in Powell, which has about 6,400 residents. And the final stop would be in Cody, which has about 10,000 people. Given its modest population size, it may seem like an odd location for a last stop. However, it's less odd as a terminal stop when you consider that Cody is the stop that would serve Yellowstone National Park, which has millions of visitors each year. Yellowstone is about 50 miles or so west of downtown Cody, and I envision downtown Cody being connected to Yellowstone by way of some form of connecting bus service. I propose connecting bus service to Yellowstone rather than having a train line to there, partly because there's no train trackage there, and partly because terrain between Cody and Yellowstone just seems too rugged for me to trust that building train tracks would be of any help. And that is my proposed Amtrak route for Wyoming. If you have any thoughts on this proposed route, I'd love to hear them in the comment section below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy listening to this content, as well as subscribe to my channel for more content on imagining better mass transit in the United States. As for my thoughts, I was a little torn as to whether to have this route or one of my other two planned routes for the state be the one I start with. Ultimately, I went with this route because it would serve more people, population wise, than either of the other two routes I have in mind. And furthermore, with the millions of people who visit Yellowstone each year, if Amtrak did this route right, I could see a lot of people using the train. Seeing so many people use the train, both residents and tourists alike, can further counteract the narrative that passenger rail is not useful or wise to have in less densely populated areas. As you might be able to tell, it's a narrative that I don't believe in. But because I went with this route rather than a different route for my first Wyoming video, several of Wyoming's largest population centers were left out of the route, just due to the geography of where cities and train tracks are. Notably, Gillette and Laramie, Wyoming's third and fourth largest cities. For residents of places like a Laramie or a Gillette, what I say to you is this: worry not, for I already have route ideas for your cities. Just because I propose this route first doesn't mean I'm going to ignore your cities altogether. Turning my attention away from Wyoming and towards the Colorado part of the route for a moment, it was quite striking to me just how many population centers this line would serve north of Denver. Denver obviously is the biggest city on this line, but the places just north of Denver that this line serves may be just as important as serving the state of Wyoming. Overall, do I think that implementing this proposed route is doable? Possibly? Maybe? Who knows anymore, given this topsy-turvy political environment? The Federal Railroad Administration has proposed a long-distance line that would go through both Cheyenne and Casper. The fact that this concept of a plan exists gives me a little bit of hope. Until I remember that the concepts were released in January 2025. You know what else happened in January 2025? A certain somebody coming into the White House. Reading between the lines, this aforementioned rail study seems like something released right before a pro-rail Biden administration left the White House. And given that it's now Trump in the White House, who knows what will happen to this or any other proposals in the study. But regardless of what will happen with this proposal or any others in the study, I think that hope can be found in the fact that there are already blueprints for possible Amtrak lines in Wyoming. Not just from some random transit YouTuber who likes to spend hours imagining new train lines, but also from people who had power not too long ago. Or, at the very least, that's where I find hope.